All right. Good morning, everybody, wherever you are in the country. We've got participants from all over the place today, so thank you so much for joining us. As a reminder, as we get going here, we have both a Q&A and a chat. Feel free to drop questions in there as we go along. We'll do our best to answer those either in real time or toward the end. We'll also have a little bit of time for some questions at the end as well. So feel free. Again, it's an interactive session. We appreciate your participation and giving us a little bit of time on a Friday afternoon here, last business day of May. Um, in terms of our agenda, I should also mention too, we'll share out this document after the session. So take your notes as always, but know that the docs are coming along as well. In terms of the agenda, we don't have a ton of sections in this, but we've got a lot of really good meaty content. We're looking forward to this today. So we'll start with some introductions. Then Steve's going to take us through some kind of what we have and some recent enhancements. Things we're really excited about. If you're familiar with the tool, there's some new things in there. If you're not familiar with the tool, it'll be a little bit of an introduction and hopefully an opportunity to learn more about what you can do and how you can help yourself and your team do your jobs. We've got some client favorites as always, and then we've got something that's really exciting and new. We're really excited, pleased to have Bill Regala join us this morning. I'll let Bill and Steve introduce themselves here in just one second, but we've got a new solution out there now called Household Insights. It's kind of fresh off the shelf, so to speak, and really looking forward to sharing that. Bill's going to do a demo on that here in a little bit later in our session. So with that, let's go ahead and do some quick introductions. Again, my name is Rick Claypool. Thank you so much for joining us, and we really appreciate you being with us here on a Friday morning. You can see kind of my background and all the stuff that I've done. I would offer up just quickly, as I say to a lot of folks all the time, I've kind of had like every job in the industry. So if there are things after the session where you want to talk about like, hey, we're really struggling with like branch distribution planning, which has nothing to do with what we're talking about today, give me a holler. I won't charge you. We'll talk about it. I actually weirdly like talking about these things. So
He
been
does.
around
He
been
does.
around for
It's
a while.
true.
Yeah, we're always happy to help with whatever your needs are. If we can't answer the question, we'll direct you to somebody else who can. And then we've got Steve Huntington. Steve, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, thanks again for joining us, everybody. I'm Steve Huntington, the Director of Analytics here at Optima FI. I've been working with community financial institutions for my entire career, everything from strategic planning and valuation and M&A and capital planning to um, what you see in front of you today. I've spent about more than half of my career here with was QwickAnalytics, which is now Call Report Insights as a part of Optima FI, and we're excited to keep building lots of new tools for you, including HHI or Household Insights, which we're going to show you a little bit more of today. And I just want to remind everyone, as far as the questions are concerned, there's no waiting to the end for questions. If you have a question, shoot it in the chat, shoot it in the Q&A right as soon as you think of it, and we'll take a look. And we might just stop what we're doing and get right to the question because, again, this is a informal back and forth type format where we want to make sure that if you have any pressing questions that relate to what we're talking about, that we focus on it and address it in real time. So please don't feel free not to wait to the end. And Bill?
Hi, I'm Bill Regala. Thanks, Rick and Steve, for having me on my very first coffee talk. Uh, I've been in software development for over 15 years on the product management side, B2B software, primarily in financial services and in automotive out here in the Chicago area. I'm actually leading the Household Insights product strategy. So as I go through the demo today, this is the new thing we've been building. It's a really exciting platform. And we're running a pilot right now. So we're learning and continuing to build the new features and getting really cool insights from bankers like yourself. So I would love your feedback in the answers in the question and answer section, or if you have questions as I'm going through later, I would love those. Graduate of Northern Illinois University, and we've got here a competitive long distance runner, and I'll say competitive in that I've done competitions. I wouldn't say that I'm fast, but I've done a marathon and a 50K. I've completed them. Again, not fast, but done. Back to you,
Excellent.
Steve and
Getting to
Rick.
the finish line is all that matters,
That's
right?
right.
That's exactly right.
A lot of work. All right. So with that, just a couple of things to tee us off before we get to Steve's commentary. Just kind of want to reset again for those of you that have done this before with us, and for those of you, we've got many of folks who are on the call today that are hearing all this stuff for the first time. Part of what we're doing here, you think about essentially kind of what's our what in terms of a value proposition. There's a lot of different things, and there's a very, very large and diverse audience on this call right now. And some of you probably have stabs of one, some of you have stabs of, three or four. I don't think anybody on this call has a staff of 42. And we're all dealing with any number of changes and any number of historical constraints, be those regulatory, just trying to grind through economic environments and uncertainty and all those types of things. We're all very, very familiar with that. And so, as a person who spent a lot of my time on the finance side of the career working at a bank, believe me, I am very, very sympathetic and empathetic to the challenges that you guys face. And one of those great things, one of the great challenges that I always had was number one was time, number two was talent, and number three was tools. And so, I think what we want to do today to kind of talk through some of this stuff is, effectively, is there a better mousetrap out there? Is there a way to do more, faster, cleaner, with great accuracy that allows you to do some more of the things that we oftentimes don't get to do, which is thinking time, true analytics? Or by the time that we get through all the work that we have to do, we basically have enough time left over to create the report for management or for peers and other leaders in the organization. And all we're left with is the ability to distribute numbers without really providing the context behind them. Or the second bullet here, which is really getting to the root cause of outcomes, right? We really, it's imperative that we not just say our margins are improving or our credit quality is deteriorating. That's good. It's important observation, don't get me wrong. But it's really, really critical that we get behind the number. We want to understand and be able to just aggregate that. And we want to be able to see what's happening and really understand that trend, what drives it. Because without that understanding, it's practically impossible to do the data science and the management activity to really correct or improve our behaviors. So with that, the next slide here, we think about this. This is kind of one of the mental models or a primary mental model that we think about. And before I turn it over to Steve, I just wanted to talk about this real quick. Think of this as from low complexity at the top to highly complex at the bottom, right? And this is where I think there's a lot of many of you may experience some pain points. This is what I was referencing before. If you're starved for time, there's just not a lot of people, and your tools are inefficient, and you're aggregating data from multiple different sources. By the time you get done, right, which might be Friday at 6 p.m. this week, so thank you for giving us some time today. All you have time is for is the number, right? And maybe you can get to what the trend is. Maybe you can look at what that number was this month over last, or 30 days from now, you might be looking at a quarter over quarter or year over year. Important, valuable, don't get me wrong, by any stretch. But if we don't start to push through to, okay, tell me about the context here. Like I get the number, but what's the context? And beyond that, I need to really understand what does it mean? And if I can understand the context and I can understand the meanings, then I can get to actions. This is where you'll hear us talk today, and you'll hear me personally quite a bit if you ever see me out on the stump roaming around the country. I'm going to talk a lot about root causes versus symptoms and the disaggregation of those things. Call reports insights is a fantastic tool to get there. And our newest solution that Bill's going to walk us through, Household Insights, is kind of the next evolution of that. It is taking, and I won't steal Bill's thunder here, but Household Insights is allowing us to overlay a customer lens to our balance sheet realities and then bring them back to how do our customer trends over time impact our balance sheet realities? Because at the end of the day, that's what drives us, right? That's what drives us. It's people putting money in their account or transacting. We need to understand that fundamental human behavior, or how are they interacting with my institution if I really want to cause long-term, meaningful, durable, valuable impacts to my balance sheet. So with that, Steve, let's take a look at Call Report Insights, and let's talk about some of the stuff that's going on.
Yeah, so thanks, Rick, for giving us all that sort of context for why we're here today and what we're going to be looking at. Just to remind everybody what QwickAnalytics, now Call Report Insights, is a time saving, it's a toolbox of time saving tools for bankers, for the management teams. Everything from regulatory compliance, right? We have a CECL solver tool that hundreds of community banks and credit unions now are using to comply with CECL regulations. We have a fully automated portfolio level credit stress test, which is dynamic and interactive in nature and does a great job of putting forth some baseline and adverse and severely adverse scenarios right in front of you with literally no work necessary. The second you pull up your automated credit stress test, the results are right in front of you. You can tweak the numbers and mess around with the inputs a little bit if you so desire, but there is almost literally zero lift to see a meaningful, actionable credit stress test. So if you're a customer of ours and you haven't had a chance or played around with the stress test, I highly encourage you to do so. Other regulatory compliance tools like our liquidity tools and industry credit research. Then we have sort of the interactive financial homepage or financial analyses that you're all very familiar with, everything from margin decomposition to balance sheet and earnings and asset quality. You can zoom out to a relatively high level and zoom in to as much of a granular level as is possible with the publicly available information, which is where the vast majority of Call Report Insights sits on that side of the wall, right? The publicly available data. And while we're called Call Report Insights, we don't limit our public data to just the call reports. Any level that an institution files information, whether it's the bank level, the holding company level, consolidated level, SEC filings with Edgar, we have all that data, company reported data, M&A data, FRED and economic data. So we pull in data from every corner of the internet that's publicly available and integrate it into a seamless platform where you can do these types of analyses. So that's sort of a bit of an overview of Call Report Insights. And so we're going to get right into a couple new things that we've added very recently. I'm about to toggle to my browser, so bear with me just a second here in case I mess this up. Look at that, seamless transition.
Perfect.
So this is, if you guys have been on any coffee talks in the past, Camden National Bank up in Maine is a very large community bank up in Maine, and they're our guinea pig for a lot of these presentations. I hope they don't mind. But let's start today with something brand new. If I go to industry research, so industry research is kind of a new home base for a lot of our data and research and visualizations here that aren't as much focused on an individual subject bank, and then with peer data being a comparative tool, but really focusing on the peer groups, on the industry data over time. Our industry credit analysis, the bank credit analysis, that tool has actually been in the toolbox for a while. The ability to choose different loan categories and slice and dice by past dues versus non-accruals versus charge-offs or recoveries, and pull up multiple peer groups and see this data over time. But something we just added is what we call the performance matrix. So if I'm going to open up another tab here for just 1 second. For those of you familiar with Call Report Insights, if I go to the My Bank page, my financial page, and click on Performance Matrix, this is one of the most popular visualization tools that we have, where it's focused on the subject bank, right? Camden National Bank versus a peer group, in this case, all the community banks in the state of Maine. When we say PPI Maine Peer Group, it just stands for Peer Performance Index, which is just an index of all the typical traditional community banks. And we can see where Camden National Bank rates or fares compared to the peer group in a very heat map sort of environment, right? All these different metrics, and you can see whether they're above average, below average, and kind of where they are performance-wise in the spectrum compared to the peer group. What we have added is a peer group-centric performance matrix, where you choose, you build whatever metrics that you're looking for, or you can have our executive package here with some sort of highlight metrics, and you choose a peer group. And then it gives you everything from the 10th percentile to the median or 50th percentile up to the 90th percentile. So this is at a point in time, right? First quarter of 2026 is what I chose. And all of these metrics for each decile of performance for the peer group being all the community banks in the state of Maine. So it is a great snapshot of how your peer group is performing right now from worst to first, so to speak, with the worsts highlighted in red and the bests and the firsts highlighted in green. Obviously, some metrics are better higher, like growth, and some metrics are better lower, like net charge-offs. And so it just allows you to come here. You can sort through, you can add and remove different metrics. You can search for metrics. You have the entire database. Any metric that is comparative, like a percentage, a percent value in our entire database of thousands of points is all available here. So that's brand new within the last month or so that we've added it to live. And again, it's in the industry research section of the platform. And the credit analysis is something that we've shown you before. Performance analysis is the same concept, but it is not limited to just credit metrics. It's kind of any type of performance. So if I type in NIM, for example, net interest margin, I'll take the fully tax equivalent. I'll add a peer group of all the community banks in Alabama. Why not? And I click peer group, and there we go. There is the last 12 quarters of median net interest margin for all the community banks in the state of Alabama. And if I want to see the 75th percentile, I can add a second percentile right in there, and I can see medians and 75th percentiles. So the data is instantaneous and dynamic in nature. You can add individual banks to it. If I wanted to add Camden, I can start typing that in, and I can add them, and we'll go with a lighter orangey yellowy kind of color. And so I can see individual banks and I can see the peer groups. I can choose different durations, and it's pretty much very flexible, very interactive and dynamic. I can even overlay unemployment rates on top of it. So that's how we handle the industry research. Let me head back to the homepage for a second here. Now I want to show you guys something that's not necessarily new, but it's one of our most popular tools that people have been coming to a lot recently. So if I head to the My Bank page and I go to deposit demographics, so it's kind of hidden down here, but people have been discovering it a lot recently. Right above deposit market share, which everyone is very familiar with, we have something that we call deposit demographics. I think I opened that in a separate tab right here. So deposit demographics takes your deposit market, and you can go by county or you can look by city or by state, and does pretty much a market share analysis, right? These are all the counties that Camden National Bank is in. They're in mostly Maine, and they're in a handful of counties in New Hampshire. And we take a look at the number of branches, the amount of deposits, the percentage of the deposit base at each of the branches. And then we overlay a bunch of really helpful demographic information. Population change over 2 years and over 10 years, median household income, unemployment, change in unemployment or in unemployment, and then education and median age. And where the power in this is not just pulling this data from, the BLS and from the Census Bureau, but taking it and doing a weighted average of your deposit market. So you can look at in all the counties or cities or states that we are in, we can take all these demographics and weigh them by the deposit base, right? So obviously Knox County, Maine is going to have more of a weight because 20% of their deposits are in that one county. It's their number one county, but you end up getting a franchise weighted average that you can compare on an apples to apples basis with the entire state that you're in or the entire national average. So you can get a feel for the entirety of your deposit base on average when it comes to these demographic metrics, and compare it to different areas in the state and the country. And you can also see of your various markets, if you're in a bunch of different counties or states, where you have more favorable demographics and where your demographics could be improved by expanding into additional markets. So that's what we call our deposit demographics. And let me head back to the My Bank page here.
And Steve, while you're doing that, just a quick
Sure.
comment. If you think back to the pyramid that we shared with you earlier, that third part down where we start to talk about give me the context. That's a big part of what Steve's talking about right now, right? It's not just a trend, but it's contextualizing the trend. And you can see, and I think one of the things that we're huge fans of, and again, I am personally, because again, I know how difficult the tools I've used in the past are you click a button and you get an answer, and that's really, really hyper efficient. So we'll keep going. Thank you, Steve.
Yeah, and last thing I wanted to point out today, and I'm going to give you a little running list of some of our other enhancements that we've made over the last year or so. But the last thing I want to really show you live here is for the last couple quarters, for about I think 2 or 3 quarters now. Well, actually, let me back up. For a long period of time, we've had what we call a report package, right? You can go to each of these individual pages, your deposit profile, your income statement, your margin decomposition analysis, and look at each individual page. But if you're trying to create a report for the board or for an ALCO committee or just for your chief credit officer with a handful of these reports or pages in them, you don't have to go to each individual page independently and separately and print them off or PDF them or whatnot. You can go right here to report package and you can create a new report package that allows you to, choose a time period, right? And choose a peer group and then say, of all these different pages, I'm building something for for my chief credit officer. So I want to make sure that I have yields and costs. I want to make sure that I've got, my margin analysis. I want to make sure I've got my asset quality. And you can choose what kind of pages you want in the report, and then save it as a report package, and then print off or PDF just the areas that you want, all in one sort of consolidated report. Now, we've had that functionality for a while. What we've added is the ability to, whenever you create one of these report packages, the second that the filing period is over and everyone has everybody has their quarterly data filed with the FDIC, we wait until the day after the filing period's over, then we send you all an email each quarter that you've probably always been getting that says, hey, the next quarter data is available on Call Report Insights. Now you're receiving an additional email which says, hey, here's all your automated quarterly report packages that you guys have created. So on day one, with peer data available, you can get one or as many different report packages as you have built on here, emailed to you immediately. You don't have to log in to see them directly in your email. There's a link and it opens the report packages up, an ALCO, a board, a management, whichever ones you want. So just a really efficient way for you to get some of those pre-built by you, customized report packages for different audiences without having to do any work. It just shows up in your inbox the day the data is available, and you can send it right off to the interested parties. Just wanted to point that out as well. So now, with all that said, I'm going to head back to my presentation here.
Hey, Steve, I'm going to chime in just real quick, and I apologize if I missed this, but we did have a question that came in. He's asking if we can adjust the PPI to reflect the banks we regard as our peers. How do we change the PPI?
So that would be here. Well, good question. I'm going to go back to my browser now so I can answer that. Excellent. So the PPI used to be called the QCBI, and now it's called the PPI. It's our index of how we define a community bank. So if I'm on the whole, and if you're curious, who's included, who's excluded, and why, you can click on PPI performance trends right here, and it'll take you to kind of the home page for the peer performance index. It defines, hey, what does it mean for us as far as we're concerned to be a community bank? And you can run a report on that. You can show the bank list for your individual state and whatnot. But if you want to customize that, if you say, well, that's not what a community bank is to us, or we want to build it for just a handful of counties or multiple states, that's when you just build a custom peer group. And you can click on custom peer groups here, and you can build them any way you want. It's very straightforward and intuitive to build a custom peer group. You can choose, you say, well, all right, show me all of the banks in Georgia, in this city or these states, or between assets between X and Y, or any filters you want. Search for them. It'll give you all the banks in the state, and you can handpick the ones you want to add to your peer group, and then save it and give it a name. And once you save a peer group and give it a name, no matter where you are, whatever page on our entire platform, I promise you will have a drop-down box for peer groups, and you could choose the UBPR peer group that you're in, our PPI peer group that you're in, or any of your custom peer groups, which could include your version of a state-based community bank peer group. So great question. Thank you for asking it.
And we've got another one, Steve, that's come in.
Awesome.
Where can I learn more about the period options you have, year to date, most recent quarter, and last 12 months, and their appropriateness for use in various reports?
That would be I'd suggest you just give us a buzz, drop us a line after the webinar today, and I'm happy to schedule a little time with you so we can talk about the different durations that are available for the data and why some are appropriate for a certain context and others for a different context. But the difference between quarterly and year to date is one that we get an idea with all the time, right? Because the call reports are all filed on a year to date basis. But when you're trying to track changes in performance over a period of time, when you're using year-to-date data, each successive quarter is kind of apples and oranges because it includes the data from the last quarter. So if you're looking for those trends over time, discrete quarters are a much more efficient way and accurate way to spot those trends. And we can talk about the appropriateness of that in different contexts. So just give us a call or shoot us an email and we'll schedule some time to talk about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. We've got,
One more, Steve.
Another question that came through that I think will be a quick one. Is the custom peer group still limited to only 10 banks, or what is the current limit of the number of banks you can select into a custom peer group?
Yeah, so we have the custom peer groups are when we say they're limited to 10 or 11 banks, it's not that the peer groups are, it's that certain reports are designed for a small group of banks, like a side-by-side report where you can see each individual bank as its own column on a single piece of paper. There's only so many columns you can fit on a piece of paper without it becoming, get my magnifying glass out so I can read it all. So we don't. So when you build different peer groups, if you go to a report page like what we call our peer watch, there's two of them that are limited to 11 or less institutions, 11 or 12 or less. And they are our peer watch and our peer watch trends. That's because our peer watch reports, and again, both of them are designed to show not aggregated peer group data, but each of the individual banks in the peer group are shown side by side on the same piece of paper. So it's really just a space limitation. The only other limitation we have on peer groups is if you're running a credit stress test, or you're running a CECL solver analysis, it's really granular data, right? We're looking at charge-offs and recoveries and past dues for each segment of a loan portfolio separately. So if you have a very small sample size, like a peer group of 4, then you're going to end up with net, loss rates on credit cards of negligible because none of those 4 banks probably have any credit card loans. So there's just certain types of models and reports that you want a large sample size. And for a couple of those, we require at least 5 or 10 banks in the peer group, versus the peer watch and peer watch trends where we limit it on the lower side. So I hope that helps a little bit. If you have a specific question about trying to get around that or build it differently, drop us a line. I can show you how to do any of these things directly in an Excel environment, which is not going to be limited by any of those constraints. Another good question. So I'm about to hand it off here to Bill. My time is up. I had been told that I talked too much at some point, I think in the past by someone around here. But this is just, again, you're going to get this PowerPoint presentation. Well, it'll be a PDF after the webinar, and it's got not only everything we're talking about memorialized, so you don't have to remember the browser pages we were on, but also a little bit more comprehensive, right? This is a better, more complete list of the recent enhancements to Call Report Insights. There's the industry research page enhancements, which we just talked about, the quarterly automated report packages, the market demographics, but also we now have credit union data in Excel and on the site. We now have year-to-date reporting periods and a comprehensive data dictionary and auditing capability. So lots of good stuff we continue to add to the product on an ongoing basis, and we'll make sure we keep having these coffee talks to keep you all apprised of that. That being said, I do believe. So, yep, that's what we talked about. And that's what we talked about. And here we are.
Awesome. So I think there's some polling questions that Jennifer Kelly will be sending out in just a moment for you. If you guys are able to see those, the first one is about householding. Are you householding your client data today? The second one, what are the primary tools you're using for that type of analysis? And then finally, when's the last time your team has strategically been able to discuss growing and retaining household relationships. And these will sort of make a little bit of sense as we go into the household insights solution here. And if
So
you,
let's give everyone
yeah.
30 or 45 seconds to answer those. And Rick, you're not allowed to vote. Okay. You can't vote, Rick.
I'm gonna give it just a couple more seconds. We still have people
Cool.
answering. All right, we'll go ahead and close it.
Yeah, you can close that up. There we go.
Awesome. And so introducing Household Insights. This is the new exciting solution
Yes.
from OptimFI. If you could just go to the next slide very quickly. I want to talk just briefly sort of what it is, but I want to spend most of my time actually in the real demo, like in the real production environment, clicking around, showing you how this works. But as a brief overview, Household Insights is a lightweight, no IT solution built specifically for community banks that want enterprise grade insight without added complexity. We let you see the entire relationship picture. So not just disparate accounts, but we put all of those accounts into the true household and then allow you to benchmark it against our normative household behavior that we have. So there's no IT setup. We give access to our peer performance index, our peer benchmarking we've used for over 20 years, which includes over 14 billion non-public data points. And we can set this up in under a week and get you live. And as I mentioned right at the top, we have a free trial complimentary pilot that we're running right now to get users to really, test this, give us feedback, and really see their own data in this platform. I'll be showing a demo with demo data, but the real insights unlock when you put your own private data in here and then compare to the things that you've seen before in the call report insights, what's publicly available, then understanding that context within household insights. So real quick, Steve, you go to the next one. At the highest level, run the direction for me. There we go. Here's how it works, and you'll see me do this live, is you upload a CSV. We don't need core integration. So your standard account data, your deposits and loans, things you're already doing in Excel today, how can we make this easy and repeatable where you upload it into Household Insights? And we do that second step of clean the data and build the households. So normalize it, put all those accounts into a single household relationship, and we automatically do that within minutes. Once that happens, we benchmark it against our peer data set. We've got that normative comparison that tells you how are these households performing compared to your peers. And then at the end, what can I do about it? What are those insights? What are those action things that I can do? I can download lists, I get board ready reports instantly and see those targeted segments. So I'll show that here in a minute, but I do want one sort of, I'm going to keep Rick honest from his earlier note where he said he was a banker, put his banker hat on. I want to ask him a question from a banker's perspective, because I'm not a banker. When we think about the peer normative household view of data versus like a traditional view of peer benchmarking, like how is that different for households and sort of the customer view of how we think about it versus that traditional peer set of other banks on the balance sheet? If we could talk to that a little bit.
Yeah, so obviously we spend a lot of our time thinking about assets and liabilities around here, right? That is essentially the core of what we do. And within that, there are numerous income statement metrics that drive those financial statements. And that's at the end of the day what it is. It's what we do. It's what a bank is comprised of, right? But we believe strongly in getting back to the pyramid, some of those concepts. But to really understand what's underneath it and drive it, you can't just look at total deposits. You can't just look at total loans. You need to disaggregate that, and not just disaggregate that, but really put it into a client customer lens. So we have taken this approach, and you're going to see this in Bill's demo here in a moment. On the next slide here, where we take that traditional view and we convert it to a household view. So assets and liabilities and et cetera suddenly become deposits and investors. They suddenly become transactors. They suddenly become active borrowers. When we go to the next slide, Steve. And it's an interesting way because now we're taking literally the exact same view of the world in terms of what we're looking at, but we're looking at it through a completely different lens. And that's what the demo here is going to show us here in a minute. So as we continue to roll forward, what's really important is a couple of key points. Number one, the first thing probably when many of you hear upload a file, you probably panic, right? So there are two things that I believe are true, or I know are true. I believe, first of all, 65% of you either were not or are not sure of your householding. I think you cannot simply do the analysis without that point of view. Secondly, we have been doing client file uploads for over 20 years. It is a core of what we do. We are SOC compliant, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We will happily discuss all that and share vendor due diligence with you guys. Those of you that are clients are already familiar with that with us. So it's a very large database and database platform. So we'll just keep rolling here so we can get to Bill. And finally, ultimately, what I want to share here is just, again, this will be in the doc. This wallet needs segment reflects back on slide 20 in those three circles. And I would ask, frankly, on the table to the top right, see where it says number of households, your FI. Do you know the answer to that? I would argue that it's imperative that you do. If you don't, you're not alone. You're in the majority. We would like to get you to the place where we can answer that question for you. And frankly, Bill's going to show you how to do it in a very, very, very efficient and easy way to get there. You're going to see how easy this is. Is really cool. So no further ado, Bill, hit it.
Perfect. Let me share my screen here, and you guys should be able to see a dashboard that says "Hello, Bill Regala." Is that true?
Yes.
Awesome. So again, please ask questions as I'm going through. If you have them, I'd love to answer them in real time. But this is the dashboard that you land on for household insights. At the very top sort of gives you an understanding of everything you're about to see, but a lot of it is in these other pages I'll show you over here. But we've got that call report, inside data, all the things that Steve, as we're Optima FI, we're able to leverage each other's information. This is sort of the natural progression of, we've got the total deposit balance at top, cost of deposits, net interest margin. We're able to contextualize what you did last quarter, put that up front. Where we really start unlocking the value of household insights is in that private data. So you'll be able to see your total households over time, the total deposit balances over time, and then we take those households and then compare them to our normative data set and then provide insights. And I'll show these here in a moment, but I want to talk to that data upload very quickly just to show how easy it is and that piece, because that's sort of the basis of all of this. So the bottom left-hand corner here, I can upload data. There's 3 steps: upload, map, and validate. And it's intentionally made to be simple. So we are able to choose a file. This is a demo data account. I'm picking a CSV. It reads it instantaneously. It takes that file that I have for May. I'm setting for May so I can rerun it again. And we'll show you the required mappings that we need to perform the householding. There's some here, things like account info, like balance in dollars, account open date, information about the account holder, their address, their name, things about the products, as well as the branches. As you add in additional information, it only helps unlock more insights, being able to provide an actionable ways to act on them. Emails, phone, being able to see age information distributed across the platform. And what we do, what's really neat, is our expected columns and then the mapped columns. As Rick mentioned before, we've been doing this for 20 years. So we've got algorithms to recognize your column headers to say account number equals account ID. And we can provide an example from that file to help you map them. And once you do this the one time, you don't have to do it every month or every week. And this can be uploaded as many times as you want. You have direct access to self-serve upload. We've seen, doing at the month-end snapshots is recommended, but if you want to do it every week to see how this changes, go for it. It's great, it's simple, and I'll do it live real time just so you can see it. I can validate, make sure that the data is good. I hit submit. My data has been added, and it is uploading. And I'll get an email at the end to show me that it's performed. Now, because I'm in this demo account and I've already uploaded the data, you're seeing it here. But where's the place that really shows you the information? And that's over here in the segments, products, deposit concentration, and household list. So I want to go here next. And this is where it really unlocks the view for you to see about your information. So householding segments, we take those, if you remember those circles that Rick just showed of the depositors, the high deposit depositors, the transactors, we put these different type of segments together, both consumer and business, able to show you things like high deposit households, new households, the number of those households. Again, those aren't the number of accounts, those are the number of households. So the Bill Rogala household may have 3 or 4 people in it that has 7 or 8 accounts. it will show up here as one household, and be able to understand that and the total wallet of that household is what really helps drive that relationship behavior and help you spend marketing decisions and marketing dollars most effectively. So we've got the name of that segment, the households inside of it, the total deposit balance, the opportunity indicator, which is driven by that peer performance index, that normative household behavior. And you can quickly identify through each of these segments, and you'll see this on products and in deposit concentration. Am I below or above the norm? So norm is 100. That's where we start you. And now, am I above it or below it for these segments and for these products? And if I want to drill down and really understand, let's say high deposit households, I have 9,845 with over $1 billion in total balance. I can click into that and really drill down into this information. I can understand that these are high deposit households with over 10,000 in total consumer balances. We give you that peer index, but also really realizing that this segment, high deposit households in particular, are your lowest funding source and a key driver of liquidity and margin stability. This particular bank, this demo bank that I'm using, is 6% below its peers in penetration and 6% below an average balance. So what is that number? So this bank has $99,599 as their value for balance, average balance of these households, but the peer norm is $105,000. So they're 94%. So they're below the peer average. Same thing with penetration. So we've identified that there's a growth opportunity based on other banks that for your high deposit households, there's an opportunity here to capture more of them. So we give you that opportunity. Strengthen acquisition of high deposit households and improve onboarding to capture those primary balances early. We call it out. You capture fewer households than your peers, and those relationships hold less of their total balances. Not terrible. You're close. 94 to 100, but there is some opportunity there. And with these being such an important segment, let's give a way to actually take action on it. Not just know that it's important, but how do I take action on it? What are those decisions that I can do? And that's where we give you cross-segment opportunities, product opportunities. So of high deposit households, 2,700 of them are a single service household as well, meaning they only have one product type with me. That's kind of important to know, and I can run a list on that. Another one, if I go back to Rick's circles of like transactors, I have 788 high deposit households that don't have any checking accounts with me. Well, I can get that list right here. I download the list, it runs, opens up in a CSV, and I can go ahead and take that and reach out to those customers, run a campaign, identify where some opportunities lie with those households that are high deposit that have no primary checking account with me. And get a quick sense of the deposit allocation of this segment. 35% of my households are in this segment, but it holds 97% of my deposit concentration. It's an important piece to know. We give you all of this information. It can be broken down by your branches. So this is just at the total CFI level, but if you want to look at just a particular branch, updates in real time, similar to what Steve was showing. I'm able to go in and manipulate the data immediately. If I want to do multiple branches, like the new roll-in to the south, or the roll-in region, I can click both those together and see how they look. I can also then quickly download a PDF and get this information out of the system and put it in a board deck. We take this all for you automatically based on that single file upload and gives you access to do that. I saw that there's a question that came over of how do you determine a household address? That's exactly right. Great question. So we're looking at the address of all of those account owners and we're combining them together. And as Rick had mentioned, we've been doing this for 20 years. So we've seen almost every version of the data where it comes in with spaces or there's duplications, and we're able to run our algorithm to put those households in a normative way. I know I'm coming up on time, so I want to go through a couple more things kind of quickly, but showing off products, same kind of idea, where we're able to give you consumer products, business products, we have deposit products, and loan products. So we've got both sides of your balance sheet, being able to see information at the household level, compare that to the normative comparison, filter down by any of the pieces of data that you have. If you're one branch, 10 branches, 20 branches, you can adjust that information and it updates in real time. And you can click in and see anywhere these light bulbs are, like certificate of deposit. I am 95%, a little below on balance and a little bit below my peers on penetration. I can see that information. Shows me that of my households that have CDs, there's 10% of my households, they hold 28% of my deposits. The average age of the segment, 68. that age data that you added in with the upload, we'll put that in there. And then quick ways to access those accounts. Deposit concentration, another great way to see how your household view data is. Total households over 250,000, 951 holding over $500 million. As I click into there, that's 4% of my households. They hold 50% of my deposits. And still, 96 of them don't have any checking products with me. If I quickly come over, this is one of our most powerful tools, is our household list here. This shows you at the household level who those households are. You can, anywhere you see that blue button of export, I hit the button and it's going to give me that particular list, 96 of those high deposit households that didn't have checking over 250,000. And you can do all types of things in here to slice and dice your data. And that's really the most exciting thing. So if I'm thinking about Rick's circles again, of where do I want to start? Where do I want to do my opportunity? This gives you, rather than having to do it in Excel and having to do it every month and changing this data, upload the one file easily into Household Insights. We standardize it. We give you this information and then allow you to do really cool things. Like if I'm looking just at consumer segments, okay, high deposit households, cool. There's 9,845. But which ones are high deposit and new? Which ones came in the last 12 months? Well, now I'm down to 240. Okay, now which ones only have a single product with me? 111. Very quickly, I've identified these 111 households that I can go ahead and take action on by clicking that button. I can also drill in and into the household level directly, see that account owner, their age, what branch they're at, time they opened the account, the balance, all that information, and I can quickly go ahead and take action on it. So just as a recap, because I know I went through a lot of things here, the segmentation happens automatically. We've standardized your products automatically. We give that deposit concentration tiering automatically. All of those have the peer normative comparisons, so you can understand how your particular book of business compares to the normative household behavior. And it really unlocks the opportunity to decide, where should I focus my time? Where are some opportunities that I can really drill into? And again, the real idea is making it repeatable. So you only have to spend a couple minutes to go ahead and upload the file. We'll get an email, go grab a cup of coffee, come back, and then really, instead of spending the time in Excel, moving things around, spend the time, like Rick said, focusing on the analysis. And then once you've made that decision, being able to go ahead and use that time to take action on it. So I will go ahead and stop sharing here. Oh, and to mention, there is a pilot. So if you'd like to see your data in here, we'd love to get you into the pilot program so you could experience it yourself. And as the person helping lead the charge on Household Insights, you'll be talking to me frequently. So much like Steve with Call Report Insights, I am the lead on Household Insights. So would love to talk more after this. Feel free to reach out, and I'd like to have any conversations if you have any additional questions of sort of how it works, or if you'd like to see your data in there, you'll likely be talking to me to help you through the process.
Thanks, Bill. Appreciate it. You'll see another polling question that just popped up there that you can fill out if you want us to reach out for some more information. There's also in the chat there. For those of you who aren't looking or don't see the chat pop up, you can also just type yes or learn more in the chat if you want us to reach out and give you some more information.
All right, I think we're ready to wrap up. We've got, again, the chat is open. You can either reply with yes or with a learn more if you'd like to get some more information on this, or you're ready to jump into a free trial. Bill covered a lot quickly. We've covered a lot today, but I assure you, as we were going through this process, there were three things that were really imperative for us. Number one is data security. Number two is ease of use. And number three is having folks who have experience in this space on the background. It's not simply plug and play, you're on your own, good luck, right? So you've got a lot of expertise. You have people like Bill, you have people like Steve, you have people like myself and our service team in general. So we understand the value of the advisory component going through this to help, not just help you get started, but also to coach and encourage you as you go through the process and the analysis. Because as we just said there towards the end, time for the analysis is what really matters. That's what makes a difference. Otherwise, we're just bookkeepers, and nothing wrong with the bookkeeper, but that's not what we want to be. We want to make a difference. So with that, we've got a couple of things here. Again, on these open items, I'll leave it open. We've got a couple minutes left. If anybody wants to put any questions in the chat or in the QA, and I'll let it sit for a minute or so. And if not, we appreciate your time. We appreciate you giving us an hour here at the end of the month on a Friday. Wish everybody an amazing weekend. No matter where you are in the country, it's got to get at least started to get a little bit warmer. I know that some of you all up north have had a chilly time, so to speak. So Bill, my friend in Chicago, has been he shared his tales of woe, but it's officially summertime in Chicago.
Sun's
So great,
shining, so can't complain.
great summertime city up there in Chicago. So I think I'm gonna wrap this up and go get on a plane and go visit him, spend the weekend up there. Thank you, everybody. We really, again, cannot appreciate more. Feel free to reach out. We're very accessible, and frankly, we just love to help. This is what we do, and we got a passion for it. Thank you. Have a great weekend. Bye.
Thanks.